All right. So let's first start exposing some of the data. Let's moving some of the implementation of the user service right on the client side. Let's start moving that onto the server. Okay. So let's create a user service sister right that can work together with this user service on the client side. Right. So for the undergrad, let's create a new directory here. We're going to put all our services. Right. See, these are the server side service. We're going to call these web services. Right. They fall into the umbrella of web services as a concept. Right. That really has taken off. At least from the beginning of this century, you know, there was a lot of competition. Early on when the .com bust happened, right? There were a lot of competitions amongst IBM and Oracle's and Sun Microsystems that they were competing amongst each other. And how easy was it to expose data on their databases, to expose it on some URL? And they were all marketing their particular solution on. It says, hey, you can just point to a particular database, press a button, and boom, you have that data available on the web. Now, obviously, the .com didn't succeed. A lot of companies went out of business. But those same ideas, right, that were invented during that turmoil, they matured into what today we have web services. So today is truly very, very easy to integrate system. Back then it was still fairly complex. I guess we had not grasped the complexity of being able to integrate so many complex systems. But let's see. Let's play around with this. All right. So let's work on first the implementing the user service. Right. So let's implement this user service server. So let's copy that. And in here, let's create a brand new JavaScript and call it user service server. I think I maybe have added an extra space. No, I didn't. Good. All right. So in here, what we want to do is start listening for these types of queries. Right down here, I've shown you here. These kinds of queries are going to allow you to either create new users. Yes.
If we're going to host both of our apps in the same server, can we append assignments to all of these patterns? Because if we're going to have a create user for our actual project, can API assignment user?
Yep. That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. Yeah, actually, I am going to do that. I'm going to do that because I'm going to have two versions of this, right? One for the undergrads and one for the grad. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Yeah, excellent. All right, so let's focus on doing some of these. For instance, let's see. We can. How about let's start working with the being able to log in, right? Being able to log in, and to be able to log in, we're gonna need to be able to pass username and password. Once we log in, right? We're gonna need to be able to retrieve a particular user, right, using the particular ID. Let's see. Actually, let's do this one first, right? API user ID, right? Retrieve a particular user once we have logged in, right? I don't want to have to deal with query parameters just yet, right? So let me build this one right now. All right. Okay. So let's take a look at that. So if we go back and implement it here. First, we're going to load the Express library. Right, that's going to live where? Let's see. That's up in. I think I need to go up twice or three times. Right there, it is. Okay, and then I can listen for an incoming. This says an incoming get. Right, so get, and I'm going to be listening for this incoming. Right, oops, and if that comes in. I can't move this. All right. I would like to be able to retrieve a particular user if I know their ID. Right, if I know their ID. Okay, so I'm going to implement a function that retrieves a user by its ID. Everybody okay? Yes. Yeah. Actually, if you go to server.js, what I did is I created my own little express, right? This loads the actual express library. This is the express library, and then instantiates the instance of the app, right? And encapsulates this in this little module. Right. This is a utility module that I created. Right, what this allows me to do is use Express anywhere in my system without having to pass it around as an argument. Right, so I suggest you do something similar. Right. Notice that in the assignment, I believe, where is it? Yeah, you see here, right? This asks you to pass the Express instance as an argument to the function, right? And so from the server. See that? I am passing the Express instance as an argument. See that? Right. But if you use this little utility that I built of Express, this encapsulates it. It creates a singleton, right? And then I can use that same instance everywhere. I can just pass it around, right? Because I tie it to the exports over here. See that? Right? It makes it more convenient without having to pass it around as a function. Yep. Right. Where was I? Okay, all right. So here I have the find user by ID, and I can retrieve it by providing this URL, right? If the server sees this URL, right, followed by something, yes, I would like to retrieve a particular user, right? But we don't have the data here. So let's move it. Let's move it from right here. There's my array of users. Let's move it to the server side. Let's paste it maybe down here. Okay. Right now, just to see how this works, right? Let's receive the request and response. For now, let's just send back all the users just to see what happens. Okay. Let's just send back all the users. So response sent back all the users. And it's mapped to this URL right here, API/users/whatever. Okay, whatever. So we implemented this in user.service.server. Right? We need to load it, and since this is our entry point, this app.js is the entry point to our entire server-side code. Right? Let's require our brand new service that we just wrote. The user service, we just loaded that. Right? When that loads, when we load that from our entry point, our app.js, what it does is that it registers this brand new route, listening for our incoming requests. Yes, and what it's going to do, it's just going to return all the users. Not a particular user, it's going to return all of them. Right? In a minute, we'll change it so that it retrieves that one particular user. Right? We'll do that in a second. Let's restart the server. And presumably, we're listening for that incoming URL. So let's copy that. If we paste that in here, right, it's not working. What? Oh, thank you. There it is, right? It's returning the array, that array we just told it to return. That makes sense? Right? Now, this over here, notice that it doesn't matter what I put in here, it always returns the exact same thing. Right, so it's kind of like ignoring that last element, right? But it's not really ignoring it because it has to be something, right? It needs to be something, right? But notice that it has a colon. So what this says is that it could really be anything, right? This is playing the part of a placeholder, right? Of a parameter that you can pass in as an argument that we can then retrieve and then do something with it. Right, which we're going to attach a meaning, and the meaning is that it represents some user ID. All right, okay. Now the idea would be to retrieve this user ID and then find the particular user that matches that ID and retrieve that one particular user ID. Yes, right. But I believe we already implemented that on the client side, didn't we? Maybe. Let's see. Find user by ID. Did we implement it? There it is. Right. It's this one. Right. This is the code. All right, so I'm going to grab this same exact code, right? I'm going to move it over to the server and implement it here. We're going to implement it here. So this is var the user, right? So this is going to retrieve the user when the user matches the user ID. That makes sense? So it's going to iterate over the local array of users on the server, not on the client, on the server. It's going to look for for each user. When it finds it, it's going to return the user object. Make sense? Right. So this is what we want to return, right? Not all the users, just that one user. Make sense? Yes.
Yeah, do we also need to account for if like the type of user is undefined, then like return all kind of
Yes. Yeah. And we will do that when we do login and so on and so forth. Yeah, we'll do that. What we don't have is this user ID. We know that it's coming as an argument in the attribute, right, in the URL as a parameter, but we need to parse it out of that URL parameter, right? We need to parse it. So to parse it, remember that everything that has to do with the request, with the incoming request, the IP address where this is coming from, the timestamp, cookies, headers, right? Also, any parameters, meaning the actual URL, any query parameters, any path parameters, it's all accessible through the request object. Okay? So we can retrieve this user ID parameters from the request object. Right? So we can say request object retrieve from the params, right? The following parameter named user ID. This matches this exact parameter name. Yes.
So I know for the Angular
Yeah.
functions,
Yep.
it didn't matter what order we put in, like location or range or whatever. Does it matter for these?
So you mean the syntax that we're following?
No, I mean like in like when we're using a service in Angular.
Yep.
It didn't matter what order we put that in as the input.
Oh, okay. So you're referring to this here, right? You're referring to arguments that you pass in here. So in Angular you have injection, right? So the arguments that you put in here don't matter, right? But here, you mean the order of this? Yeah, this one does matter. Yeah, there is no magical injection on Node.js. There are packages that allow you to add injection, okay? But there's no injection out of the box in Node.js. Yeah. So yes, arguments do matter where we pass them around. Okay. So this is just a function that is being called by the Express library when it matches the URL. Right, it's going to call this function, and it's going to pass you these arguments in that order. Okay. If you were using Java or .NET or any of these more JavaScript 6. Right, you would have interfaces, right, and you would say this particular class implements a particular interface, right, and this function would have to implement the interface where the first argument is the request and the second argument is the response. Yes, in this version of JavaScript we don't have interfaces, right, so we are just following a convention that the first argument is a request and the second argument is a response. Yes. In newer versions of JavaScript, you do have interfaces, and you have to follow a particular signature. Okay. All right. Awesome. Great question. So here we're retrieving the user ID. We're going to store it locally in a local variable of the same name, just to keep our heads straight, and we're going to use that to compare it for the ID for a particular user. Make sense? To retrieve a particular user. All right, so let's restart the server. So if we go back and we ask for user 123, notice that we return Alice. See that? Or if we say 234, we return Bob. Okay? So now we have data access that allows us to retrieve a particular user. Right? So we could refactor our profile page, right? Our profile view, because our profile view, what does it do? It once you log in, right? It parses the ID from a route, and then uses that to retrieve that user from the local user service. Correct? Right? So we could refactor that piece, Right. So let's refactor that piece. Let's refactor this piece. Notice our current implementation of the profile is still going out to the local array in the client side, right? It's not yet coming to the server to fetch the data. Yes. So let's refactor that. Okay.